friends, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to part 4 of the cardboard box journal series a year and a half later. A year and a half later, what the heck is that all about, right? Well, let me tell you. If you watched the original series, which I created about a year and a half ago, you saw me make 3 different utilitarian journals out of simple cardboard boxes from my pantry and my kitchen. Each one had a specific use. And in that series, I basically taught you how to make really quick and easy junk journals from basic materials that you have around your house. I also demonstrated different kinds of bindings and just the process of creating journals. I was using these journals for specific purposes, and that's one of the reasons I love cardboard box journals, because they're just so accessible and I can throw them together lickety split. If you're interested in any of these journals and that series, I'll link it below. But what I wanted to do today was add a 4th journal because I really need a new journal for a specific use. I was going to be throwing it together. I wanted it to have a cloth cover, and I realized I didn't have a cloth cover junk journal yet that I demonstrated with cardboard boxes. So I thought it would not only be a great opportunity to now teach a different type of journal, which would be a cloth cover journal, but it would also be a great chance to revisit some of the questions, comments, and issues people had over the last year and a half of my series. I have been so fortunate that that series has been a popular one, and I've been able to have tons of conversations with people. I've had a lot of new subscribers to my channel who have left feedback for me, and I listen and I care and I want to answer questions people might have come up with through that series, and today is a great way to answer them. So I'm going to be doing a cloth cover cardboard box journal, but I'm also going to revisit some of the things from the original series that people might have had questions about, to answer them better and to also make sure that I'm responding to my community who has been so generous to me. So here we go. Let me talk about this new journal idea and what I need. Well, first of all, we know one of the trends of, I would say, late 2022 into all of 2023 has been skinny journals, tall, skinny journals. And recently, it is the fall and it's apple pie season, and I am lazy. All right, let's just say that. I'm a little lazy. And I bought pie crusts. And of course, any good junk journaler worth her weight will tell you that every single piece of junk or box that comes across your desk or packaging that comes into your life, you look at a whole different way. And all I could see when I looked at this pie crust box was a tall, skinny journal. I'm sure you can see it too. And that fit in perfectly with the function of what I need this journal to be. So let me talk just a little bit about that so you understand why I'm choosing this format. Not that you need a reason to do a tall, skinny journal. They're awesome. I love the proportion of tall, skinny journals, and you don't need any reason to decide to have one. But for this particular thing, I love to make utilitarian journals that have a reason for me. And in this one, it's going to be a swatch book. Recently, I have become very fascinated with making botanical handmade inks. And I have made about well over a dozen. I think I've made 16. And I'm new to the process, and this is the time that I should be recording my results, my recipes, and what these inks look like on a variety of substrates. So I really need a swatch book. On a side note, if you're interested in botanical inks, I will link the video below that I just released on how to make these. They're super easy and fun. But I don't want to take up too much time with that because I don't want to distract from the reason of this video, which is a tall, skinny, soft-covered journal. But I do have to explain what it's going to be used for so you understand the choices that I make. I like to explain my process my thought process and why I make choices the way that I do. And you're going to need that context. So even if you're not into botanical inks, most junk journalers do enjoy using alcohol inks or distress inks or distress oxide inks. And we all know that the color in the bottle sometimes doesn't look like the color on the paper, or we don't remember what the color on the paper is going to be. Sometimes we like to use it on fabric. Sometimes we like to use it on different weight paper. And I'm sure you've seen in the community, lots of people handle the swatching process with swatch boxes and putting swatches on their ink tiles and all sorts of different ways that they swatch. My brain wants them in a book. I want to be able to turn to a page and look up that ink and see how it looks on a variety of papers and on cloth. So my thought process was each page needs to be tall and skinny so that I can put a variety of swatches for that ink on one page. It'll also give me the opportunity to write down notes about how I created the ink. Now, if you're buying store-bought ink, you don't need that part, but for me, that's going to be part of the process. So let me zoom out just a little bit because this is a very tall journal, and I want to make sure that you understand how I'm going to do this right from the beginning. So I do not need a journal this tall. I need to figure out really how tall I will need it. And to do that, I have a couple little things that I'm planning. This is not important to the journal process, but it is important to my swatch book. I'm going to want to be putting several swatches on a page. I think I'm going to probably use regular paper, like copy paper. I'll probably be using watercolor paper and then maybe a different color paper. So I'll probably need room for 3 swatches. I'll also need room for a title, which I think this will show. And I also wanted to sew on a little piece of fabric. So maybe I would do 2 swatches, a heavyweight and a lightweight, and then a swatch of fabric. So for me, this helps me see that if this was the top of the journal on the page, and then maybe I would write a little bit of notes on the top, and then I would have 2 sample swatches, and then I would have the little piece of textile. I think I would probably like it to be around here. That feels about right to me for a tall, skinny journal. Now, however you're going to use your tall, skinny journal, you just have to decide how tall you want it to be. Maybe you'll make the decision based on the paper you're putting in and what makes it easy for you. So for instance, if you have an 8.5 by 11 piece of copy paper, maybe fold it in half. The easiest way to do it is to just measure that and then cut off that small amount. Then you'll already know that the length is already cut for you. So, it's going to be what your use is, what paper you have available, and how much work do you want to put into it. So in the interest of time, I'm going to speed things up and condense things just to make this video a little bit more user-friendly. To get the full instructions on how to prep a box for the cardboard journal, you can go to the playlist below and look at video number 1 in my cardboard box series. That will go over every part of the prepping. And as you're seeing here, I'm just prepping it and cutting it down to size. So here is going to be my swatch journal. And this gives me a really nice base, and the spine is already the size I want it to be, and I'll be able to put this together really quick. So I had the comment that they didn't believe, the person commenting did not believe that the cardboard box was heavy enough to be a cover. They found it to be too flimsy. I honestly, when I feel these covers, they do not feel flimsy to me. And maybe it depends a lot on the box that you use, and maybe the boxes I used, I was lucky that they're not flimsy covers, but I really don't feel like the covers of cardboard boxes from the pantry are flimsy. But having said that, this pie crust box, it does not feel as strong as those boxes. It feels like it might be a little bit of a lighter cardboard, and I might think that this could be a little wobbly, and I'm going to be putting a lot in it. So this would be the perfect box to address what happens if you feel like your cardboard box isn't strong enough. Well, I simply would reinforce it. So I cut, these are just the back of like a notepad, you know, like a paper notepad, like a legal notepad, that thickness. It's just 2 pieces of cardboard. And I simply would place them on the covers like this to make them just a little bit stronger. I would not do it on the spine because, oh, well, I guess it depends. If you're going to be doing a spine that you're going to be cutting holes through, that could be a little bit tricky. But since I'm going to do a no-sew spine on this, I could actually even make the spine a little bit more sturdy as well. So what I'll do there is I will simply take some beacon glue, and I'm just going to glue them on the top. So you might say, well, then why even use a cardboard box if you're going to put cardboard on the top anyway? Well, that's light cardboard, so I probably wouldn't make a book out of that anyway. Second of all, I have hinges already in place, and I already have the measurement and the spine in place. So it's still super easy for me. So now I'm just going to cut down a little bit of a spine so that fits a little bit better. And now I'm going to glue that on. So this is not a step you have to do by any means. I'm just showing it as an option for if you feel like the cardboard box just isn't sturdy enough for you. You're feeling like it's a little bit wonky or it's not going to hold up. Then by all means, add a little bit of support. And the nice thing is, the cardboard could be from anywhere. The cardboard could be another cardboard box from your kitchen so that you're not spending any more money on cardboard. And two layers of light cardboard are still going to give you a nice base. So, you know, this is just a way to make it a little bit stronger. And you could see that that was puckered a little bit. So what I want to do is just really make sure that I'm taking the time to rub this down. And while that's drying, let's talk a little bit about the choices I've made for my swatch book. If you've been with me for a while, then you know I talk about my cousin Sue. She gives me the most amazing things. And she gave me a cut of fabric bigger than this. I cut this down. That was all paint swatches. And I have been hoarding this and making it precious for too long. And I decided this was the project that would be amazing to use for my inks. I love that it swatches already. Then there's a Stamperia pad that has all the color wheel and all swatches. And I had been making that precious for too long. So what I ended up doing was I ended up just taking 3 pieces of the Stamperia paper for the 3 signature covers. And then I just took mid-weight drawing paper, plain, for the pages inside, because I already know in my head, and again, this is why I shared with you what I'm going to use it for. I'm not going to do a junk journal this time. I'm not going to do a lot of mixed papers because this function of this book is to be a swatch book. And if I'm going to put a piece of paper and 2 swatches and a title on each page, I want it to be plain so that each page looks the same, and you know, I have a collection of colors. So that is why I decided to do something a little bit more plain and very organized. Now, to learn about how to make these signatures and how to choose your papers, I would go back to the first video in my series, and I go over that. Now, I did not know the dimensions of my book at that time, which I do know now. So what I want to do now is cut down those papers so they're going to fit. So again, I'm not one to measure a lot. I like to eyeball, so I'm going to, if you can see, I'm going to put a little bit of space between the top, and I'm going to come along the side, and then I'm going to go a little space here, and I'm just going to make a mark. And then I'm going to go on my paper cutter. And I'm going to cut that sheet, and then that is going to be my template piece. And hopefully, if I did it right, it will fit nicely, and it does. I'm happy with that. So now I just have to cut down all of these papers to fit as well. So I'm going to write a little thing here. I'm going to go on my bigger cutter and cut this, and I'm going to cut down these 3 signatures, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've cut them down, and this should be dry. So if I stick them in like this, that is going to be more than enough room for me to add fabric and things like that to it. I'm actually making it fairly thin, as you can see. But I think once this swatch book really starts taking shape and I'm adding swatches to it and fabric to it, it's going to fill out really, really quickly. Now, let's say you are looking at this and you want to make a swatch journal too, and you're like, but I don't have that fabric and I don't have that paper. I get you. And you know what? Use what you have. But how about just taking a plain piece of muslin or canvas and swatching paint on it, or eco dyeing it, or making some handmade dye, or just taking some distress dye. And you could make, you know, jelly prints, jelly print some fabric, jelly print a few swatch covers, and then just add plain paper in there. So now the hardest part, I think, is going to be trying to find the way that I want the fabric to sit on the book. What do I want? What do I want to be the cover? I'm already thinking I don't want it just to be a plain fabric all the way around like the same. I do want something to break up the spine. So I have to decide what colors I want on the cover. I do like the reds, the blues, and the peaches here. Has a little bit of everything that will be in the book. So I want to cut this so that there's enough fabric to glue and fold over. So I need to get my fabric shears. And this is cotton. I mean, this is like a canvas. It's going to unravel pretty easy, I think. So I'm going to have to be mindful of that when I cut it. I am going to write, I'm not usually one to measure, but I cannot cut straight for the life of me, and I want to have a little bit of a visual guideline. So I am going to at least draw a line. Depending on the cloth too, and your cardboard box, you might be able to see through to the cardboard box. If, let's say, it was a light muslin, or like in the case of a canvas that has a big weave. So that might be another reason to add the cardboard to the outside, or you could simply fold your box the opposite way so that it's plain on the outside, and you can always add paper on the inside. It's totally up to you. So now that I think I have it where it needs to be, I know I don't want this green showing, but I need to make sure I have enough fabric everywhere. So that is pretty much how I want it. So I need to come down this way on a diagonal and cut off that there. And I need to cut off this here. And I'd rather cut a little less than I need off than more, because I hate to see those corners. Okay. And I am going to do one side first. I'm going to do this side first. I'm going to try to use this because this is stinky, it's expensive, and I'm trying to find an alternative. If you have an alternative fabric glue that you like, please put in the comments so that others can see what you like to use. As you can see, I just did kind of a big blop, and now I'm doing a thin layer just like that. And then I seem to go on a gluing odyssey, which took so much time. And when I was editing this video, I literally fell asleep 3 times. That's how boring it was. Because no matter how much glue I seemed to use, it just didn't stick. You're going to see me like rubbing it and adhering it, and then I go to glue the other side, and it doesn't stick again. Now I'm using more glue. So as much as I want to like this Eileen's product, I think you almost have to put it on and just leave it. It's not a product you use if you're in a process and you want to keep moving forward. Guys, you have no idea how much video I cut out. So I'm going to give that a few minutes to dry, and then I will come back and we'll do the inside. Okay, so I actually just used my heat gun to further it along. I'm not sure what I think about this. I really want to get away from the beacon glue, but it is taking a long time to dry, and I am not sure if it holds quite as well as the beacon, because the edges are coming up. So I guess the jury's out on this. Maybe by the time this journal is done, I'll have a definitive answer for you on what I think. But as of right now, I'm not sure. So now I'm going to kind of try to cut this as straight as I can. And we're going to cover the book the way that we would cover a book with paper. I need to cut diagonals around each corner, and then I will need to make 2 snips at the spine so I can fold the spine in. Now I think I told you, because this is like a canvas, it will fray easy, and you can see it's already coming apart. So I need to get this gluing done lickety-split. So I'm going to be using the Fabri-Tac here. I just don't really think that this Eileen's permanent glue is going to hold as good as the Fabri-Tac will. I'm not as worried about it leaking through on this because I'm going to be covering it in paper. I can feel this already sticking. So I guess for this experiment, I'm still... Maybe if I didn't want to use as much Fabri-Tac, I would use this in the center and then maybe use the Fabri-Tac around the edges. What do you guys think? What has been your experience with permanent fabric glue? Is there one that you would recommend if you didn't want to use Fabri-Tac? I'm going to use my bone folder to really push these covered corners down. And you can see the Fabri-Tac coming through. And I'm okay with that because, like I said, that's going to be covered by either fabric or paper, whatever I decide. And I'm just going to pull those corners down. And of course, the help of a bowl folder will really help that. And then I want to use clips to really hold that down, especially the corners in place. That looks nice and tight. Now I'll do the spine, which should be fairly easy because it's just going down flat. If you are in the United States and you have not checked out the materials and the supplies that you can get at the Dollar Tree, which used to be the dollar store, it's now $1.25. These clips are really good, and I see a lot of people using them. So if you're new to the game and you want some pretty strong clips, I'd say head on over to the Dollar Tree and put a clip on it. A little bit more glue in there. This is why I hate Fabri-Tac. It's like, ugh, it gets everywhere on my fingers and everything sticks to it, and I just, ugh, not to mention the smell. Okay, so this is drying, and I want to show you this piece of fabric covered scrapbook paper. It's denim, and I think this would make a great inside to here. If I do that, I don't know if I'll have enough left to put on the spine, which I also wanted to do. But it looks like I do, because if I measured down to here, I'd still have this long strip, which would, I have to be so good and not screw this up, because I only get one chance at this. And I want to cut just a little bit smaller than the book. It's going to be really tight. So let me cut this first. I don't ever like to cover in one piece. Usually I like to have a spine piece and then two pieces separate so that the hinge never gets all buckly on me. I have to decide if I want to do that in this case. Why don't we look at this as an experiment? I'm not selling this book. I am not giving this as a gift to anybody. And I'm doing a process video with you, so you'll see whether it works or not. What do we have to lose? Just have the book look a little bit janky? I can live with that, I think. I need to deal with this circle. If I cut down to the circle, I think I will have enough, but it will be tight. Let's see. All right, there will be enough there. Now, I think I'd like to put stitching around it just to finish it off, and just so that I'm sure that none of this will fray. Actually, I'm back. Tracy Fox of Fox Creative has a newsletter, and every month in her newsletter she has a freebie. This was a freebie earlier this year, and if this is going to be the inside of my cover and it's so plain, how fun would it be to have some pockets? So I was thinking, I remembered she had this kit, and these are so fun. I'm wondering if I printed this on like a light cardstock. I'm going to cut it out, and as I'm cutting, I'm going to say I'm thinking about just doing either a tuck or some pockets in the front here, and if I'm going to put stitches in them, I might as well stitch now so that I can really reinforce those pockets. So this would be the time to make that decision. And since my book is so very plain, it might be nice to have some pockets in this book with some color, some interest. So I was thinking maybe on one side, I would make a tuck spot that's just part of the color wheel. I may put a little black ink on the edge just to blend that in a little bit. By going around the edge of the circle, any little white edges that I didn't quite cut out perfectly will be blended in. And I can, if I make a mistake, I can kind of figure out what color I want to keep in. So I could do one or two things. I could put it in the center and have it be a tuck spot like this. I could put it on the bottom and have it be a tuck spot like that. I don't have a lot of room. Like, I have to remember, I'm really limited by how narrow this piece is. So I'm probably better off just making it a corner tuck. I'm actually going to cut out the rest of the ephemera pieces because I have an idea. So what I was thinking is, what if, because this is narrow, I'd have to, let me see if I can, how can I mark this so that I know the size? If I made a pocket where I layered like that, it would not only make them stronger, but it would also add interest. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying to you. And then on this side, I could put it halfway up on this side and then put this behind it like that, and then have a tuck spot in there. I'm just going to put a piece of paper there for now, just so I can see the edge. Then what I want to do is I want to line this right up to the edge of the paper because that's where I'm going to have stitching. And then I'm going to put some glue stick right here. And I'm going to decide that I want that right up about to the hinge, but not quite. And I think I decided that I wanted this up here, right? Like that. And I like it a little bit off center. Okay, so now I know it's the right size. I'm just going to go in there and really make sure it's trimmed out. I'm going to go on the back and make sure that the glue is where I want it everywhere. I might even add a backing piece. I've decided to go with a very thin piece of paper that's linen. The linen weave paper will give it a little bit of strength, but I don't want to add a lot of bulk because I'm sewing this. But I want to make it a smooth, things that slide into the pocket, I want it to be smooth. So I'm going to just stick it to this back of this paper and then cut it out. This is like a linen piece of resume paper. So it has a lot of rag in it. It has a weave in it. Even though it's super thin, it should provide a little bit of integrity to that pocket. And again, just because I am making a really basic journal that doesn't have a whole lot of fancy papers in it, doesn't mean that it can't look sleek and have a couple really interesting design elements in it. And I think having these color wheel pieces will do that. Is I'm just going to take a little bit of Fabri-Tac and I'm just going to tack it down before I sew it. Just so that it doesn't move when it's in the sewing machine. And if that's there, it's going to be close, but it will bend, which is good. All right, so that will be my first pocket there. And then over here, I really like the blue. So I'm going to want to cut it right down the middle, right down the middle. Like this. Actually, I had a half a wheel, right? I could have done it on this side too, but I don't like being that symmetrical. And then I would put this here and glue that on there. And I'll put this on here. Let me glue it down and then take it to the sewing machine and put stitches around the edges. Okay, I put some stitching in it. And of course, I'm a little bit of a wonky sewer, so it's a little bit of a wonky stitching, but it's okay. I'm okay with it. And I got a nice little pocket here. I probably should put some stitches here too. Not on this one, because this one is a tuck spot. Well, maybe this one's good as a tuck spot too if it comes undone. I think I'm okay. I think either way I'll be okay. Yep, I ended up putting stitches in. And in this case, I actually sewed that really good. Go figure. Okay, so now I'm going to cut off all the little strings. This stitching will also allow me to not worry so much about this fabric fraying too. All right, so let's see if we can put on one piece of fabric on the inside of this cover without it becoming a complete nightmare. So when I do that, I like to do it in stages. So because this is covered in paper, I'm going to add it right here. I would never add Fabri-Tac to the back of a fabric ever because it's just going to seep through. But because it's covered in paper, I think it's going to be fine. And I'm going to take my finger, another reason why I hate Fabri-Tac, and I'm just going to smooth it out just a little bit, taking one for the team on my fingers. And I'm going to line it up on the corner here of the book. And I'm going to make sure this side is straight because I don't want to glue it in and then find out later that I have to adjust it. And I've glued about this much of the book. And I've done that because I think it's going to be really hard. Oh, maybe I glued a little bit more of that than I thought. All right, but I did not come up to the hinge, which I didn't want to come up. Now, when it comes to the hinge, I like to have a metal ruler when I glue this part. I like to press the metal ruler in there and make sure that hinge is really functional. And then I'm going to add glue all to the spine here. I'm not going to go past the spine. And I'm going to push that in, and then I will glue the spine down. And I'm going to keep bending it because the last thing I want to do is get to the point where when this bends, everything gets wonky and buckly. I want to keep working that hinge as the glue dries. And I'm going to keep pressing down with my bone folder. And as much as Beacon isn't my favorite, I can already feel it's drying, and it really, is the quickest product. So then the last piece is this part. So I'm going to put this again on the paper. I'm going to spread it out with my finger. And I'm very slowly going to push it down flat. And then, see, I'm getting some wrinkles there. I'm going to work those wrinkles out with the bone folder while I still can. And I want to make sure that, see, do you see this wrinkle right there? I don't know if you can see it. That's what happens if you go too fast. Kind of like putting on a screen protector on a phone. You can pull out the cover and work those bubbles out. And if you can't work it out, there's enough time to go back in, put some more glue in, and lay it down once more. Make sure to use that metal ruler to really get that hinge going. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. When we put in the 3 signatures, I think they're going to look really great next to those color wheels. Right? Like that. That looks nice. I like the dark navy with all the colors, and I like the pockets. Okay, so I did not want this just to be just this fabric, and I have this left. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to speed this up, cut it down, trim it to the size of the spine, and throw some stitches in it. Okay, I sewed around the whole thing just to make it look a little neater, and that way I can be certain that the fabric will not fray once it's on the book. Or if it frays, it's only going to fray to the sewing. Cut off the rest of this. And now I'm going to glue this on. And I'm going to attach the spine the same way that I did the inside cover. I'm going to take my time working from one edge slowly to the other and working the hinges, making sure that I don't have any bubbles and that the hinges work properly, and making sure that I'm just taking my time to smooth it all out. What I'm going to do, I can see a little bit of buckling in here, is I'm going to just put a clip here, a clip there, clip here. I'm going to clip the front of the book so that it stays shut like that. And I'm going to let it dry like that. And while that's drying, I'm going to go get a book plate. So now it's a matter of just fiddling around with the book plate and finding the right spot for it to land. And now when I take the piece of paper and put it behind it, it bothers me. It's just way too white. So I need to add some ink. I have no problem showing my flub ups on camera, but because this video is already too long, I'm just going to tell you what happened. I ended up spilling a whole bunch of ink, and I had to wipe it up with a paper towel. So I ended up using the paper towel to just wipe the color on the paper, and now I'm just adding some splatters to it. When I made my journal series, I believe it was in January or February of 22, my studio is very dark. It was a very dark day, and I really pumped up the ambient lighting in the video. And for some people, that doesn't seem to be a problem, but other people really could not see what I was doing. And I believe you. I believe you. I believe both sides, that some people can and some people can't, because I think a lot has to do with your screen and your settings on your TV or your computer or your phone. So, but I was really bothered by the fact that some of you could not see that no-sew binding. And I want to do it again for those of you who are really bothered by the light, so I can give an option for those people. I actually have to switch what I was going to bind it with. I was going to bind it with this really pretty pink, but this is more like a sisal twine, and the more I worked with it, the more I realized it's just going to fray and break. It's not that strong. So I'm going to use baker's twine. So you're going to hold it in the middle, just like this. You're going to hold it and look on the back, and you're going to go around 1 time and 2 times. And when you come up this time, you're going to see you have 2 coming down and 1 coming up. Do you see that? You have 2 pieces, this one coming this way, 1 coming that way. Inside, you have 3 strings, 1 for each signature. So what you want to do is pull them tight, but not too tight. You want them taut. And you're going to take your finger and you're going to bunch them together, still holding them tight. This is where an extra person in the house can be super, super handy. You're going to push this tail under this way. And you're seeing me struggle because I only have one person here. And then I'm going to go under this way, up top, with this tail. And hopefully they are crisscrossed. They are. Now you're going to make a little knot. And again, if you have a person in your house, a kid, a parent, dog, just joking on the dog, you're going to make that knot. And then you're going to spread these just apart so they're pretty, like that. Inside, you're going to make sure they're all nice and neat, like that. And then on the back, I double knot it. And I like to spread my strings. I think this one's crossed. It is crossed. That's the problem. I'm just going to spread them out on my book and make sure that they're neat. And I'm just going to take the buttons and I'm going to stack them together and feed the strings through both of the holes. And then I'm going to tie it very snugly, double knot it. And I have one tail that's much longer than the other, as you can see. And then you can also tie in the back if you want, you know, to add charms and things to it. You can always tie a knot in the back and then you'll have extra strings. Maybe so you make them equal. And that's your no-sew binding. You can tie beads and things off to this. And on inside you have these 3 perfect little strap-like strings. So then you're going to feed your signatures in. This signature, you always feed from this side, from right side back. It's just easier. I mean, there's no rule against it. And somebody recently did something. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. I want to show you what some clever person I saw do in a video, and I thought it would be so handy for this binding. Who was it that did that? Oh, if I can remember, I will link them. They just took their scissors and they made a little cut. And a little cut, just like that. See that little notch? By making that notch and sliding it in, you can get the whole paper in, and then the book sits in the little notch. Now we'll do the second one. I'm just going to cut a little notch, a little notch. That's the second. And now we're going to cut in the third signature. Just like this. And slide it in. And look how cute that looks. I love the way that looks. The 3 signatures, I can take the pages out when I need to work with them. They're notched, so they're going to stay put, and I didn't have to trim them at all. It's a good way that you never have to trim the pages if you slide them in. And now the last thing I want to do, I have my button on the back. The last thing I want to do is make my book plate. So I'm just going to get a pen and I am going to handwrite the title of this book, which is Ink Swatches. And then after I write it, I'm going to get a couple of fasteners. I have some in different colors, you know, like paper fasteners. And I am looking at blue and orange. I decided to go with orange. I like that color combination the best. And I'm going to put those little fasteners through the holes. And I end up gluing them in the back so that they stay put. And then once they're in, I will put glue on the back of the book plate and glue that down to the cover and slide the little piece of paper in that says ink swatches on it. And then we will have our finished cover. Oops, I lied. A couple more details. You absolutely do not need fabric covers. But I can already see, like I said, this fabric is canvas, and I think it's going to, over time, fray. So I am going to put on fabric. I'm just going to put on little corner pieces on this book. So you just open them up like that, if you don't have any. And then once you slide them on, you squeeze them shut. And you can put a little bit of glue under them too, if you feel like you need that. It just is going to keep that book cover from fraying a little bit more. And I'm going to cut off a little bit more of those strings. I'll take a teeny little bit of fiber tack, and I'm just going to put it right in the corner. And I'll put one here. And again, you just come in and you open up one side just a little bit. You slide it over the corner like that, and then you squeeze it shut. I've reinforced this light cardboard box with cardboard just to make the cover stiffer. But as you can see, it's still got a lot of flexibility to it, even though it's strong. And now all I'm going to go do is cut any little thread that's sticking up. I had an idea, and of course I had the camera off when I started, so I just noticed it and I'm picking it up. I want to make a little dangle for the back of the journal that I thought would be really cute. So I am taking some colors of my ink, and I'm making swatches, like little drops on these little tags. And once they dry, I'm going to put in little tiny, probably eyelets, and then I can hang these strings hang these little tags off of the back of my swatch book. And I think it's going to make a really cute detail. So here we are out in natural light. I want to show you what this journal ended up looking like, all complete. I really love the no-sew binding with the buttons and the little swatch detail on the back. I think the denim, the plain denim spine really makes that detail pop. I really like using that canvas swatch cloth on the front, and I really love how this journal came out, and I can't wait to use it to swatch my colors. The inside has that denim fabric and plain pages and those really pretty signature covers that, again, are all based on color swatching. I hope that you enjoyed watching how I took a pie crust box and turned it into a swatching journal. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up or a subscribe. And in the next video, I'm going to use these pages and show you how I swatch on them, how I'm going to take the inks and use this journal. And I hope that you'll join me for that. Take care, and until the next time, happy crafting. Bye.